Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Heal Through Feel podcast. If you joined us last week, you saw a podcast about growth and development and the human experience where we got really vulnerable and shared different aspects of our life that we maybe don't get to talk about as much as we would like. So that is kind of the premise of this podcast. If you really enjoyed it, or if you find yourself looking forward to more, go ahead and like and subscribe this, please. It means so much to me if you did. That way other people can find us. Since it's a newer podcast, we're really trying to push it out and launch it, so your help would be so appreciated. Today we're going to be discussing feminine and masculine energy. So this one gets really juicy, and we're going to kind of dive into how it affects sex. We're also going to dive into other reasons why sex can kind of change in a relationship. And we're just going to get really vulnerable and really personal today. So thanks for tuning in, and let's get started. All right, so masculine and feminine energy. If you're not familiar with this concept at all, I'm going to give a brief overview of kind of what it is and how it affects every single human being on planet Earth. When you hear masculine, you automatically think of male. When you hear feminine, you automatically think of women or female. But masculine and feminine energy can be in either sex. Honestly, it just depends on what your dominant trait is. And the masculine and feminine energy ebb and flow throughout your life. So when you're really little, for you women out there, if any of you felt like you were a tomboy growing up, your dominant trait was probably masculine. And as you get older and as you shift and change, you may shift into a more feminine trait. You might not really be interested in all of the things that you did as a kid that were looked at as masculine, such as playing basketball or contact sports. Maybe, 3-4 years later, you are exploring ballet or gymnastics, which tend to kind of have more of a feminine energy. So you ebb and you flow and you change. And even in a single year, you could have a dominant energy of masculinity, or you could have a dominant energy of femininity, and then halfway through the year, it completely shifts. So it ebbs and flows. I just want to start by saying that it's not something that is only present in male or female. Both masculinity and femininity are present in either sex at different times of your life and time periods. So, what does that mean? Well, that means, which is really awesome, that we actually have a choice in the energy that we're presenting. So, I will give a personal example for myself. So growing up, I was a tomboy. And even now, I love all sorts of kind of masculine types of sports, such as rock climbing or canyoneering. So now that we know that these traits are dominant in both sexes, let's talk about how or why we will sometimes shift into one or the other. So let's just talk about masculine energy in general. So masculine energy is the type of energy that is very independent. It is a go-getter energy. It is a provider energy. It is a protector energy. All of those traits are dominant when you are in your masculinity. So if a man is a masculine dominant man, then he will feel good and he would get energy from being in his masculine. On the flip side of that, with femininity, that the energetics of that is very flowy, very, do I feel like it? It's not this go-getter energy. It's a very kind of flowing energy. It's not like a forceful energy, it's a very flowing. I can take it or leave it. What do I want to do? Does this make me happy? It's a very like introspective kind of more like feeling instead of thinking. So when you're in your feminine, man or woman, when you're in your feminine, you may be a little bit more indecisive. You may utilize your intuition more than your logic, meaning, oh, I need to fill into this. I'm not really sure if I want to do this. Whereas if you're in your masculine energy, it's a very, yes, this is what we're going to do. Let's go. Like it's a very decisive, different kind of energy. Also on the feminine side is very creative and very inspired. And they listen to their intuition, the gut feelings. They kind of look for signs and they see things and they take that information in. So if a woman is more in her feminine, then that may look like letting the masculine lead, not feeling like they have to be in control, not needing to plan everything, not needing to do everything on their own, not running around in chaos. When a woman is in her feminine, she feels she creates. So something that I saw online that I really loved was a video, and a woman was expressing her family's dynamic. And she mentioned, my husband provides the house and I make it into a home. My husband provides the food and I make it into meals. Now, I'm just going to use those two examples. As you can see, the husband provides, the woman creates. So that is an example of a masculine and feminine dynamic that works in the way that biologically we were created. So men were biologically created to get joy, fulfillment, and success from being in their masculine, and women were biologically created to get joy, fulfillment, and success by being in their feminine, by being in the flowing creation state. Now, my personal opinion is it wasn't until women started becoming equal to men in what society deemed okay for us to do, meaning working, things like that, that this kind of shifted. Because prior to that time, that's just how it was. Women created, men provided. That's just how it was. And now that that's different, and now that women have the awesome opportunity to be able to work and create a life for themselves, on one end, that is amazing because it allowed women to break free from the dependence of men, right? Women were allowed to now be able to find a way to survive and live without depending on a man, which is great. But that then shifted the masculine and feminine energy and polarity of the world. So what happened was women started working, women started providing, women started doing all of this stuff, but they also still were expected to cook, clean, take care of the children. And so it became this thing where women started taking on way more than they were ever supposed to. Now, I'm not saying that men don't also take care of their children, cook, clean, because they do. But that also throws off their polarity. That makes them eventually feel unfulfilled. There's this void inside of them that is biologically proven that a man who is in their feminine will not function in the highest possible way because they're going to feel off. Their internal system will feel off. And if a woman is in the same way, in their masculine, working, hustle mindset, hustle mentality, also taking care of like all of the things that a man is usually going to do, then they're off. There's something that doesn't feel in alignment internally. Now, I want to make sure that I'm very clear in saying there is no wrong or right way. If you are a man that enjoys taking care of the house and the kids and all that stuff, great. You are in your season of being in your feminine. And if you are a woman who enjoys creating or building businesses and providing and going out and making more money and brainstorming and having that logical mindset to like make the money and bring home the money, and you're not like doing the caretaking or the cooking or whatever, taking care of the house, that's okay. You're in that season. But I want you guys to be super conscious and honest with yourselves in how it makes you feel. Because for a lot of men, it makes them feel inferior. It makes them feel bad about themselves. It makes them feel worthless sometimes. And for women, it makes them feel burnt out. It makes them feel like, oh my gosh, this is too much. I can't take it. It makes their stress, their anxiety, and their nervous system go out of whack because that is not how they were biologically created. Now, I also want to make note that this also goes for homosexual relationships. There will always be one person that may feel like they're more in their masculine, or one person that feels like they're more in their feminine, or both feel like they're in their feminine, or both feel like they're in their masculine. It doesn't actually matter, I think, if you're man or woman. Like I said, we all have masculine and feminine energy. So when I talk about husband and wife, I do it because it's male and female every time, but this concept also goes for homosexual relationships. And just for even people who were born as male and are now female or identify as female or whatever it may be, all of these apply because, again, we all have masculine and feminine energy. But if you are a male who is now a female or identify as a female, then you're still kind of fighting that like biological creation. So internally, you might still have the biology of the male and masculine like feelings and desires, but you may feel very feminine. You may want to present as feminine. So you might have a harder time because you feel like you're feminine and you are, in your eyes, you're a female, but you're still fighting that biological element. So keep that in mind when we're talking about this because like I said, it goes for everyone. Now, one of the biggest things, and a lot of people don't realize this, one of the biggest things that are masculine and feminine energy, number one, it affects the way that we go through life. So if you feel like life is chaotic or you feel like life is unbalanced or you feel unfulfilled, I want you guys to just think about the internal. So don't think about your job. Don't think about what you have going on. I want you to think about whether or not you feel that you're in your masculine or feminine. If you are a man and you feel like you're in your feminine, I want you to work on fixing and solving that, getting more back into your masculine before you change like a lot of the external stuff. Because if you are in your masculine as a man, you are going to feel so much more fulfilled. If you're in your feminine as a woman, you're going to feel so much more fulfilled because we're in line with our biology. So those are the things that I want you to look at first. Now, as I'm talking about this, I know that some of you are like, oh my gosh, as a woman, I've been living in my masculine. So this shows up a lot of times when you're hyper independent, when you feel like you can't ask for help, when you feel like afraid that you're going to lose out and you're going to miss out and you're in that like lack and scarcity mindset. And I'm not saying that people in their masculine are in the lack or scarcity mindset. What I'm saying is that the masculine energy is very much provide, right? Like get this, go after this, da 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 da. And naturally that is a I need more because I don't have enough kind of energy. But for a masculine, that feels good. For them to go out and get and do, that feels good to them. That feels fulfilling. But for a woman, if we're in that, it feels draining. So men might be able to work 5-6 days straight and then have one day off and be like, I'm ready, let's go. Whereas a woman, if a woman works 5, 6 days straight, she needs maybe 3 days to like really understand, oh my God, what the heck just happened? That was very busy. Because we're introspective, right? We have to process it. We have to understand it. We have to feel it. And having one day off a week does not do that for us. So it leads us to burnout. It's almost guaranteed that if you are a woman and you work 5 or 6 days a week, you are going to feel burnt out. You just are. Now, if you're in a position or a job where you feel really like fulfilled and you feel like you can be creative and you create and you could speak how you feel and you have the space to feel your feelings, then you probably feel good, right? There's a balance. You could still be a woman who works, but it has to be in a space that feels like you can work in your feminine and not be in your masculine. So a sales job, for example, may not necessarily be the best position for a woman who wants to be more in her feminine, because that's a very go out and get it and da 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 da. Now, if a woman is in a position where she's an artist or she cooks for a living, or she does educational videos about cooking or things like that, where you are creating, you're actively creating and you're able to be like in a very flow state with your intuition and your feelings, like those things, creation of art and cooking, it's a very flow state, right? You're just like, you taste this and you say, oh, it needs this. That's intuition. And if you're in a sales position, it's like, okay, what do I need to say in order for that? Like that is still creation in a way, but it's more logical. It's more brainstorming and problem solving and kind of getting through rebuttals and things like that. And men love that because it's like a chase. It's like a fight. It's like an accomplishment. Once you get it, you're just like, yeah, and that makes them feel really good and fulfilled. Or the masculine, we'll say that. Because, for example, for me, I worked in sales and I was so in my masculine at that time. And I work every single day to get out of my masculine because most of my life I've been in my masculine. And when I realized that, it was such an epiphany moment. Like, oh my God, it was life-changing. But that was the feeling that I got. But I was so burnt out. I had gained 25 pounds. I felt like my life felt so toxic. And I just had no idea why, like at the time. It was just like, I thought for the longest time that I was an entrepreneur. Come to find out, I'm an artist. So having that shift, because I enjoy the creation process, but being an entrepreneur with the managing of the taxes and managing of employees and working a calendar and making sure this and this and this is in line and all of that stuff made me feel burnt out and it made me feel stressed, and I didn't like doing it. I hated it. So I called myself an entrepreneur, but I hated doing half of the task of what an entrepreneur did. So I was like, oh, what do I like about creating business? Oh, I like the creation process. I like the building the foundation. I like the creative aspects of the marketing and all of that stuff. So I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm an artist. Hence why I'm shifting my career. And so when we think about what we do for a living, I don't want you to think that one position is wrong, one position is right. If you are on the journey of trying to become more feminine or more masculine, whichever way you're wanting to go, I want you to analyze if the position is suited for your goals. Because if you are wanting to get more in your feminine, then you should get into a position or create a career for yourself that is in alignment with creation, flow state, intuition. And if you want to be more in your masculine, then get a position that is more in line with problem solving and fixing and going after and managing and all of that stuff. So I'm trying to make these concepts very simple. I hope that so far you've kind of been following and that you've been enjoying what we've talked about. I am going to start talking about how the masculine and feminine energy affects relationships, polarity, and sex. So if you have liked this video so far, I want to stop you to ask you to please like it, please subscribe if you haven't already, and please consider sharing this with someone that you think may really benefit from it. Because I think so many of us and our friends and our family have no idea that they've kind of been living out of alignment with what they're biologically made for, and this could be really helpful. So thank you so much for that. Let's get back to it. Sexual energy. Let's talk about sex, baby. Yeah, okay. Maybe I'm not allowed to say that because maybe that sounds copyrighted. So whatever. All right, sex. So I am going to start with the problems with sex, right? Because I think that most relationships, one of the biggest problems that they have in it is sex, right? It's like sex, communication, and money. Is that the three? I know definitely sex and money. So we're going to talk about sex. Now, if you can relate to this, if you are in a relationship, and this doesn't matter if you're a man dating a woman or a woman dating a woman or a man dating a man, whatever, it's for everyone. If you are in a relationship and your relationship is just starting off, you probably have a lot of sex, right? You probably have great sex. You probably have connected sex. You probably have euphoric sex. Your sex is probably just like, yes, 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 yes. 5 times a day, whatever. And then it starts to dwindle as the relationship goes on. And I know every single one of you have experienced this. So let's talk about the reason why. Because I feel like we want to put a Band-Aid over the reason why we don't have sex, right? Sometimes we'll say, oh, I don't feel good in my own skin. Or sometimes we'll say, oh, I just don't feel like it. I'm so tired. Or we make all of these surface level excuses. That's not what it is. I'm sorry. It's not. Like, yes, of course, there are some days where you're just tired, but 9 times out of 10, you're not digging into the underlying reason as to why you're not having sex. I'm going to rattle off a few real reasons why your sex life has changed. Number 1, and one of the biggest ones, for women, for the feminine, so people who are biologically created to be in their feminine, or who identify and would like to be more in their feminine. There's this level of security that is needed in order to open ourselves to sex. So I'm just going to say women for this example, just to kind of keep things flowing. For women, if you are in a relationship and you are sexually active in that relationship, and something happens, let's say your partner lies to you, and this is the first time they lied to you, and it feels really bad and it feels weird. Maybe it's not even a big lie. Maybe it's just like a small lie, but it's still a lie. You lose trust and you close up and you protect yourself. And when that happens, it is going to be near impossible for you to have a desire to have sex. Because for us, sex is connected to the openness of ourself, of our vessel, of our heart, of our body. Women contract and shut down when they don't feel safe. And when you don't feel safe, when you feel like someone has lied to you, or even if you feel insecure, say your partner was looking at other women, or you catch them looking at other women, and you're just like, obviously my partner is a man, he's going to look at other women, that's okay. Like, if you make that excuse or you say that it's okay when you really feel bad about it and you're not actually okay with it, then it's going to translate in your sex. You're not going to feel safe to open up. You're not going to feel good enough to open up. You have these insecurities for a reason, right? Now, if the insecurity just comes into the relationship where you generally don't feel secure about the person that you are, then maybe your sex life was never like great to start, or maybe it was great and then it dwindled kind of down without your partner having a real hand in it. That's something you need to express, right? Don't just mark it off as, oh, I've just never really been into sex. Like, have that conversation with your partner. Hey, I have never really felt that secure about myself. And so sex can sometimes be hard for me. And you open up and you be vulnerable. And hopefully you have a partner that's like, oh, my man, I'm sorry to hear that. I understand. Thank you for telling me. Because no matter how much, if you don't feel secure with yourself, no matter how much your partner tells you that you're beautiful, no matter how much your partner tells you that you're worthy, it doesn't matter. It doesn't make a difference. But having a partner that is there to be open and supportive and love you through your own journey of healing, then that can start the healing process for you of starting to feel enough, right? So we have to take responsibility for what's going on internally, but we also have to be open and take responsibility for being very honest with ourselves when it's something that our partner did. And we don't even notice. We don't even notice. I will give a personal example. I had a partner once who I caught him looking at other women, and we had this conversation over and over again. And for me, I know that men will look at other women, but I don't want to see it happen. It's not comfortable. I don't want that. I don't want to see it happen. So that's like where my boundary is. Do not do it in front of me. Look at anything you want, any woman you want, outside of the relationship when I'm not around. I don't want to see it. I don't. And I never realized that that subconsciously made me feel like I was not enough. I was not good enough. I was not beautiful enough. I was not whatever, and that affected our sex. I started not wanting to have sex, but I told myself it was because I was tired. I told myself because da 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 da. And you know what happened? You know what happened after that? I started gaining weight. I stopped working out. And you know why I started gaining weight? And I didn't know this at the time. I had no idea. It wasn't until after we broke up that I really started doing the introspection and digging into the things that I maybe could have showed up better for, or the things that I felt, or the things that I wasn't honest about. And I started like really diving in after the fact to understand it better. And I realized, holy shit, I gained 15 to 20 pounds over the span of like maybe 6 to 8 months because I didn't feel good enough. And my body went along with the thought, I'm not good enough. I'm not beautiful enough. I'm not skinny enough. I don't have a big enough booty, whatever it is. And I manifested that into my physical reality. Guys, that was the most incredible breakthrough that I had. It blew my mind wide open. And I was like, holy shit, I wasn't tired. I wasn't too tired for sex. I didn't feel good enough. I didn't feel safe enough. I didn't feel this openness, right? I shut down. I closed myself off to him. And for him, for the masculine, sex, I think for the masculine, sex is, I don't want to say it's a means to an end because it's not, but sex is very, like they want to have it. They were created to spread their seed. They were created to procreate. And even in nature, in the animal kingdom, you see this happen. The males are like, all right, cool. What woman can I get? What woman can I mate with? That is normal. That is natural. That's fine. But they don't need to feel super safe to open up. And sometimes when a man is more in his feminine, then maybe he does. But when a man is in his masculine, he's usually ready to go. He's usually ready to go. So now I want to kind of talk about the way that the flip side. So let's say a woman and a man are in a relationship and the woman's in her masculine and the man is in his feminine. So if that happens, the polarity will be way off. This will be another thing that will make it to where you do not want to have sex. Now, let me kind of talk about the example I gave. In that relationship that I was in, when we first started dating, he was there, he was present, he was consistent, everything was great, he was showing up, he was doing the planning. I loved it. I was in my feminine. I was just, and our polarity was like amazing. So things were like in alignment. Then when I started to feel that I couldn't trust him, there were some lies that happened, no cheating or infidelity, but there were little things that happen that's normal in a relationship that put little chips into the foundation. And, I moved from my feminine into my masculine because I was like, I can't trust him to lead me. I don't know if he's telling the truth. I don't know if he's going to leave me and abandon me because he doesn't think that I'm enough, or maybe he wants something different. All of this stuff started happening. So I went into survival mode. I shut myself off to my feminine and I said, I need to take care of myself. I need to make sure that I have everything planned. I need to make sure that I have my own back. Da 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 da. I went into my masculine. I started taking the lead. He would be like, oh, so let's go here. And I'm like, no, I really think we should go here instead because this, and this. Whereas before I'd be like, yeah, sure, let's do it. Because when you're in your feminine and you feel good and you're in alignment, you're not in control and you're okay with not being in control. How many of you women out there are like, yes, I do not want to be in control. I don't want to plan every day. I don't want to have to figure out the schedule of when the kids are going to be picked up. I don't want to have to do all that. I just want to kind of like be like, okay, where are we going? When should I be ready? And worry about like what outfit I'm going to wear and what makeup I'm going to do. Like, and that sounds so like stereotypical to a woman, but like if you think about as a woman, if you were able to just think about yourself and like what you needed to get done instead of like planning for everyone else and making sure everyone else's needs are met, like, doesn't that feel amazing? Even if you don't put up makeup, even if you don't dress up, like even if you could sit down and watch TV for an extra hour because you don't have to do all that stuff, like, wouldn't that feel great? Men like to provide. Men like to plan. Men like to lead. It's only when you start taking over that role of the man and you step into your masculine that it forces them to go into their feminine. Now, some men who are not okay with going into their feminine and are in their healed masculine will call you out on it. Or they would just be like, you know what? This relationship isn't right for me. Sorry. And that's okay. Just like if you are a woman in your feminine and you're dating a male who was in his masculine and he's starting to move into his feminine, you might feel like, not that into him, not that attracted. You might feel not supported. You might just be like, oh, this isn't the right relationship for me. Sorry. Right? When we shift into different energetics as it relates to masculinity and femininity, the polarity shifts. And men, and this, I'm talking about a heterosexual relationship here, right? The men want to feel masculine, the women want to feel feminine. And when that aligns, then sex is great. When that's off, you don't want to have sex. And there's science behind this, and I'll link some resources below so that you can learn more about the science behind it and nature and all that stuff. But that's kind of the gist of it. Let me take a sip of this coffee. Cold coffee. The best. Okay. So now I would love to present you guys with solutions because we could talk about this all day long. And I know everyone watching this is like, okay, I could relate to this. Right? Now, I want to say one more thing before we move on. Because I spoke a lot to femininity. Obviously, I'm a woman. I have a large perspective on femininity. But I want to talk about the masculine side of this as well. So if you are a woman and you feel like you've been living in your masculine and you have been hyper independent is not a badge of honor. It is something that I think us women have learned to be proud of. But it's a safety mechanism and it's a defense mechanism. If you feel like you can do it all and you can take care of it, it's because as a child, you learned that your needs weren't being met, so you had to figure it out on your own. Great, it kept you safe. Now that you are in a partnership or looking to call in a healthy partnership, you got to let that go. If you want to step into your femininity and you want to attract a masculine man who can support you, you have to be open to support. I know so many women who are like, I want to feel supported. And then when a man is like, hey, let me do this for you or let me pay for the bill, they're like, no, I got it. I'll pay for half. Oh, no, you don't have to do that. I'll take out the trash or I'll whatever, because I was that woman. I realized a few years ago, I'm sitting here telling myself I want to be supported and I won't let him support me because I'm so afraid that he's going to do it wrong or that he can't lead me, because that's what I have seen my whole life. And you will always have disappointment in any relationship, whether it's romantic or not. You're always going to face disappointment. It's how you respond to it. It's the story you create about it. You could say, oh, they disappointed me once, so they're going to disappoint me again. Or you can say, oh, they made a mistake. I make mistakes. I'm going to give this person grace. So for the masculine love to take care of you as just in general, they love to take care and support. I had a relationship where my partner was so in his masculine and I felt so supported by him to the point where I asked him to do something once and he did it. And it was so nice because I never had to worry or even think twice if it's going to get done. I felt so supported by him. And I would wake up in the morning and go out and my car was the snow was wiped off my car and everything was shoveled. And I was like, oh my God, like usually I have to do this stuff. But it's like, I didn't ask him to do that. When he was on his way to work, he did that because he wanted to support me. He wanted to make sure that I was taken care of. He wanted to provide the safety and the comfort for me so I didn't have to do that. And it felt so good, but it felt so uncomfortable too. And he loved it. For me, I was like, oh my God, I'm so, like, you spent your time doing that. And he's like, I love doing that for you, and that was so monumental for me because it was the first time I realized, oh, there are men out there that enjoy this and that feel really fulfilled by this stuff. And I had no idea because I, for so long, was in my masculine and I wouldn't let I struggled letting partners do those types of things for me. But number two, I attracted a lot of men who were primarily in their feminine because I was primarily in my masculine. And so when you are in one or the other, you typically tend to attract a partner that's in the opposite. So I was in my masculine for so long, I tend to attract a lot of partners who were in their feminine. Now, in this specific scenario, I had already learned about my femininity and really stepped into it. And so when I attracted that partner, it was awesome. We had different problems in the relationship, which is why it ultimately did not work out. But that was the first time I had felt really, really, not the first time, but it was a time that I felt really, really, really supported. I have had other relationships. My first really major relationship of 5 or 6 years, I felt really supported by him too. But life ebbed and flowed and things shifted. So anyway, back to the solution. So let's talk about the solution. Now, from what we've discussed, we know that men like to support, to provide, to offer safety, and women love to be able to create and make and nurture, and they work on their intuition, and masculine work more in their logic. Okay, we know all of this now. Awesome. So if you are a feminine man that wants to get more in his masculine, or a masculine woman who wants to get more in her feminine, then this is how you start. The number one way that you start to do this is by understanding and recognizing why you feel the need to be in one or the other. A lot of times for women, when they step into their masculine, it's because they were not able to be provided for, protected, in the way that they should have as a child. And that they could have had a great childhood, but maybe their parents weren't home very much. They came home, they had to cook their self lunch after school because their parents were working and didn't get home till late. They had to bathe themselves, whatever it may be, something even that small. It could make you have a primary energy of masculinity. For men who are more in their feminine, tend to maybe have not grown up with a masculine figure. Maybe they didn't have like a dad to kind of show them how that is, and maybe they were surrounded by women where they felt like they have like a high level of like empathy, right? And like the women are caretakers, right? So if a woman constantly is taking care of a man and doing things for them and making sure that they're good, then they kind of naturally will go into their feminine, right? Of just like, I'm good, I'm taken care of, I'm provided for, whatever. And so it takes a lot for a man to kind of move back into his masculine. So So men and women, like I said, can be one or the other. If you are having to constantly, as a man, if you're growing up having to constantly, like, you feel like you're always doing something wrong, or you feel like you don't have the space to be able to, like, go out and provide or go out and problem solve, if you feel like all of those things are, number one, being taken care of for you already, or you feel like maybe don't have a say in certain things, then that kind of gets stifled. So, number one, how you fix that is you have to become aware of where it came from, and then you have to choose and decide to move past it. Now, that's number two. Make the decision to get more into the opposite energetic. So, if you are in your masculine, you want to get into your feminine, decide. Because going into your feminine as a woman who's in her masculine, you're going to have to give up a lot of things that you have created as your identity, a lot of things that you have surrounded your worth with. Your worth is your ability to be able to do this on your own. Your worth is your ability not to have to ask someone for help. Whatever it may be, you have to decide that that's no longer who you are. And you have to make a conscious decision that you are going to stop acting in that way. Until you make the decision, you're never going to get anywhere. So, number one, figure out where it came from. Number two, make the decision to switch. And then number three, you have to take inventory of what in your life is in alignment with your masculinity. And then on the other side of that list, figure out what you want to replace that with. So let's say you currently take out the trash or shovel the walk or do all those things, but you have a partner that could also do it. This is like a small example, but say that's the case, you have to have the conversation with your partner. Hey, I don't want to shovel the walks anymore or take out the trash. Is that something that you don't mind doing? Is that something that you can be open to doing? And by this time, if you're a masculine woman who is in a relationship, your guys' polarity probably has changed and shifted. So usually in these types of relationships, you'll notice, like, it's going to take some time also for your partner to be able to get back into his masculinity, because he has started kind of getting into his femininity if your dominant trait is masculinity. So it's going to take him time to, like, get back into that. So his initial response might be like, yeah, I guess, or it might feel weird. Whereas, like, when he's in his masculine, that feels totally normal. It's like a, yeah, sure. It's like a, okay. So just keep that in mind, as if you are in a relationship, as you're switching into your femininity, then you have to allow your partner that space. Don't just be like, oh, I'm not going to do this anymore and I expect you to take it on. Like, have the conversation with them. Take a time and say, hey, I want to have a deep conversation. When do you have time? Schedule it and sit down and be like, look, I want to move more into my femininity, and that's going to mean that you're moving more into your masculinity. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about how it's going to affect us. Let's talk about how it makes us feel. And then really hash out those details, right? Because once you make that decision, if you are partnered up, it's going to affect everyone. If you have children, it's going to affect the children. So after the decision is made, you want to take inventory. That's number three. Take inventory of the things that you're in your masculine and figure out what you would like to change it for. Now, maybe you, instead of shoveling, instead of taking out the trash, maybe you want to start writing. Maybe you want to write a chapter of your book on the day you would usually do that. Whatever it may be, right? Maybe you want to write a poem. Maybe you want to paint. Maybe you just want to do something feminine. I want you to write down something that's going to take that place. Then number four is, I want you to make everything on that list. I want you to prioritize that. So if you prioritize cooking dinner, if you prioritize going to the gym, if you prioritize going to work, those are your priorities. I want the stuff on that list to be a priority that's just as important as the other priorities that you currently make time for in your life. Because if you don't make time for it and you don't commit to changing, nothing's going to shift. So once you have your inventory, you have to make time to prioritize it in your everyday life. I want you to make this a project. I want you to think about it all day, every day. Am I making this decision because I'm in my masculinity, or is this a decision that my future feminine self would be making? And I want you to act accordingly. Okay? So all of this stuff, it has probably been a lot. And I hope that you have gotten a lot out of it. I hope that you've had a few epiphanies. I hope that you've had a few breakthrough moments. And I am curious what other questions you have as it relates to this topic. So I would love, love, love if you can comment below any questions that you have, anything that has come up, because I want to have conversation with you all and I want to talk to you about this stuff more in depth, because I think that this can create such a fulfilling life, fulfillment in relationships, and just in general make things more enjoyable for you. So again, as always, thank you so much for tuning in to episode 2 of the Heal Through Feel podcast. It has been my absolute pleasure, as always, to be able to talk to you guys and dive into the things that are so important to me that I have spent so much time learning. And again, for the third and last time, if you haven't already, please, please, please like and subscribe, and make sure to share this with someone that you think would benefit from it. Because the more we know, the more we grow. I just came up with that. And it rhymed. That's a bonus. Anyway, cheesy, whatever. Might be cheesy, whatever. Anyways, thank you guys. And until next time, see you later. Bye.